Okay, I'm going to be point blank and absolutely direct and candid. A lot of you, well, some of you aren't going to like what I have to say. A lot of you are going to be applauding me. And to my mysterious caller who said I should make more videos, this is probably about the last one. The 15th, I will have an upcoming hearing before none other than Judge Kirkpatrick concerning the evidence. Now, if all the evidence has been put up, one little thing hasn't. I need to explain something. I'm not stupid. I'm not as arrogant as everyone thinks I am. I've had a plan this whole time. Allow me to show you something. This is the original statement that I wrote to Lieutenant Deeds. Now, it should be noted that as part of this statement referring to the corruption in the prosecutor's office and Duckworth and how they were all buddies and everything else, I happened to mention something very specific. The fact that my uncle lied. And bear in mind, I had given him a recording of my uncle under oath from an interrogatory taken when I was suing my old landlord, Rent WV, Julian Chipley, in which my uncle under oath admitted to, well, the search warrant says that he came to the police. The recording of my uncle under oath says the police came to him. And this falls into the whole issue with a bunch of other information, but you'll notice very inexplicably right here where my finger's located that I mentioned the fruit of the poisonous tree. Now, this is a legal doctrine that says that if the police knowingly use false statements to gain evidence and they find something criminal because of seeking using that false evidence and those false statements knowingly, that what they essentially do is they forfeit any right to that. Now, that's very important because that is how the issue of the second search warrant came about. At the present moment, since then I have said that the second search warrant proves that the West Virginia State Police were falsifying and tampering with evidence. And in fact, here is the second statement, second complaint I wrote to Lieutenant Deeds, which is half a complaint and half me talking shit. See, here's the thing about it. I know he's not going to do anything. For 3 days, for 3 attempts to call him before that, he wouldn't give me a time. He made up bullshit excuses, told me he wasn't going to come see me, investigate this, any of it. So I went down and recorded him. I recorded those conversations as well, and it's very important to bear in mind that I sort of, kind of mentioned something here about the West Virginia Rules of Evidence, and you see the evidence quoted in bold, such as, Rule 27, Rules of Criminal Procedure, and Rule 44, Proof of Official Record, and Rules of Civil Procedure. And this comes in because the Rule for Criminal Procedures is a reference back to Rule 44 of Circuit Court Procedure. A, authentication. 1, domestic and official record kept within the United States or any state, district, commonwealth, or within a territory subject to the administration and judicial jurisdiction of the United States or an entity therein, when admissible for any purpose, may be evidenced by the official publication thereof, or by a copy attested by an officer having the legal custody of the record. Now, the certificate may be made by a judge of a court of record. So that goes into the issue, as well as the fact we was talking about the whole statements from the girls that were written by Trooper Duckworth on a plain white sheet of paper and just attached to a form that he himself filled out. And then you go into Ashley Redden saying that she was coerced. So by saying that they don't have this form, that it doesn't exist, this goes specifically to Pat Lamb, or any prosecutor for that matter, they have to provide me with a form saying otherwise from the county clerk's office. And it's really important because we started talking about that second search warrant, which the West Virginia State Police and the prosecutor now claims doesn't exist. Now, it's very important because we go into the fact that we go talking about FBI agent Mike Yancic and how it was put on there that I became upset when I found out information obtained was not in my favor. Now, this was when the FBI agent threatened me. This is what Trooper Duckworth put on the warrant, actually, that I had contacted the FBI, but he gave a fake name for the FBI agent. I found out later his real name was Michael Hayden. He might be related to the attorneys of Hayden and Hart, and he might be related to Officer Hayden of the West Virginia State Police. Now, this is a second a second complaint written by me inside Southern Regional Jail. And again, espousing the timeline as well as the fact that I've sent this information to the governor's office and that the state police were actually caught. In fact, it's really funny because, you see, here's the thing about it. I actually told Lieutenant Deeds, "Thank you for providing me with additional evidence in the way of patterns of criminal behavior within the West Virginia State Police." See? Right here. It's my salutation. Signed and notarized April 13th. The day before they put out the arrest warrant. The day before I called Captain White. And even sent him some paperwork stating pretty much the same thing. Now, all this is really interesting because we need to understand something. We are right now involved in a case where they are denying the existence of the second search warrant. Except, since they wouldn't hand it over to me, I've given them all this time. I went up on the 8th of July. Paid $1. And I bought a copy of the arrest warrant. Actually, specifically the criminal complaint that's attached to the arrest warrant. And this is really interesting because it says right here, additional search warrant, second search warrant. Now, they're saying the second search warrant doesn't exist. They've lost transcripts of the preliminary hearing where they mentioned a second search warrant. They've never turned over the criminal complaint in any of the discovery material, and they're denying the existence of the second search warrant. There's paperwork around here for that, but it doesn't matter. It's not important at this time for this video. What is important is this. This here was the statement referring to Thomas Keller and his friends with the police department. It's mentioning of the whole child porn being on there downloaded by him. Again, signed and notarized. Now, that's really not as important as you think it is, except when we go looking at another very important factor. Before Judge Hutchison was even involved in this case, among all those mentioned by me, including that interrogatory of my uncle and everything else, which I should point out is mentioned in this, and a little secret for you all, no one knew I had copies of that until I released those when I tried to fire Mingo Winters. Mingo Winters didn't even know I had copies of this. So when they took my computers, they thought they were getting rid of evidence that was going to be used to show that my uncle, Thomas Keller, lied, and that he is connected to the Reddens and everything else. And even in this case, I kind of mentioned that fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. Here's the actual common law statute that it's based under. And, I mean, this was an 8-page statement I turned in, but it's really interesting because, when you get down here to this last little part of those involved in this little corrupt buddy system, we have Judge Hutchison. I mentioned him. And it's really funny because I even said, and let me show you this. Here is the notary seal for the day that I was arrested. 4/19/2012. Right here. See? Notarized. And here's the fun part. I actually said that offers my exact words, paragraph 16, or actually subparagraph 16 of paragraph 11. What we come to is this. A pattern of harassment seems to appear and offers only circumstantial evidence, but enough evidence to require an examination of the evidence, and a need to call the following individuals as witnesses: Trooper Moore, Palmatier, and Deeds, as well as an examination of evidence and statements sent to the governor's office, that with the current list of those accused in the criminal conspiracy, including magistrates, prosecutors, public defenders, Judge Hutchison, several state troopers, sheriff's deputies, Beckley City Police. A change of venue will be warranted to keep from running into conflicts of interest. Now, I predicted this the whole ahead of time, so it becomes really interesting that I'm even stating we might need to even call in Hutchison as a witness before he was ever put on this case. This was written by me, signed and notarized by me the day of my arrest. This was my 8-page statement, acting and naming legal arguments, acting pro se at the time. And it's really interesting because here we come into none other than Pat Lamp. His motion, which doesn't even name a reason to put Judge Hutchison in charge of the entire case. And here's the thing about it. This is what gets really interesting having Hutchison involved. Here is where he was involved with the Ashley Redden case way back when. I was found not guilty of one count of contributing to delinquency of a minor, and it was even signed by Judge Hutchison. His involvement seems rather weird. Why is he involved in this? Is he going to go back, change his story? Are they hoping to threaten or press gang Ashley into changing her story? Or are they trying to bias the court so that I can't get a fair trial? Maybe strike down the evidence I've gathered to show police corruption and criminality because they don't want to be exposed. Now, I said I was going to be candid. Allow me to be candid. The legal research part's over. The facts as they exist, the paperwork, the paper trail that I created is explained. That's done and over with. Because here's what's important. You see, I'm not that arrogant little prick who has to brag about my plans. You think I am, but I'm not. See, the fact of the matter is, all you did was provide me additional information. Now, granted, I'm a little bit of a cocky son of a bitch, and I did sort of kind of rub that in your face. Why? Because you're all cocky sons of bitches. We're all arrogant little pricks, right? I mean, Trooper Palmatier is West Virginia State Police Special Operations. Duckworth has tailor-made. Lieutenant Deeds has been in there for a while, and he's in charge of investigating other cops, and from my understanding, he has a pretty good record of corruption in and of himself. Captain White, well, he's probably bucking to be Colonel Smithers' replacement, and, well, Colonel Smithers being head of the state police. He answers directly to the governor. And since we go all the way up to the governor's office, tisk, tisk, tisk. Here's where we have, okay? I filed complaints on all these people. I have involved each and every one of them, showing criminal conspiracy and a number of different things. The fact of what we're looking at is explicably simple. Yep, I had a plan. My plan was to expose a little bit of the information, make some arguments, and watch you scurry around to cover it up. See, here's what's beautiful about it. You say the second search warrant doesn't exist, but we've already seen the criminal complaint where you say it does. You say Massey forgot, and I didn't name Massey in that 8-page statement as well, but you say Massey forgot to record the preliminary hearing? Really? How convenient. Especially when I name him as being involved in an 8-page statement at the time of my arrest when I turned myself in, and you guys told me Massey wasn't involved. Of course, you've taken me in front of Massey when Magistrate Humphrey was doing arraignments just to keep me from being put in front of someone who might actually be fair, ethical. Here's where it becomes an interesting fact. Being completely candid and direct. At this point, I have one of two options. We can continue down this. You can give me a fair hearing. I can go to an unfair hearing. Whatever, we can deal with the court straight. Or I can just say, fuck it, and go all Christopher Dorner. I'm not saying I want to. I'm not saying I have the intent to. I'm saying that you've put me in a position where there's a large enough paper trail in existence, and other people have copies of this paper trail. Not just me, not just a few friends of mine, but people in other states, even people in other countries. So, excluding the fact that you don't have the authority to go to Mexico to steal any of their stuff under getting a search warrant, or Canada, or Australia, South Africa, Germany, Russia, Brazil, Lithuania. The problem you come in, quite a few more. The problem you come into is essentially this: you're not going to get rid of the evidence. You tried that. We caught you, or I caught you. You're trying to get rid of even more evidence, and I bragged about my whole little thing, watching you scurry around like mice trying to cover your tracks. The only thing you've done is provide more evidence of a pattern of behavior, more evidence of choosing to try to cover up evidence and seeking a conviction and not just justice. At this point, I can pick up a gun, defend myself. I'm justified. At this point, police officers can refuse to arrest me or to have any dealings with me for fear that they might be unwittingly involved in a criminal activity carried out under color of law because of the actions of certain people, including the prosecutor's office and everything else, so they might not trust any warrants or anything else based on the evidence they've seen. In which case, well, it's kind of the situation, isn't it? And the fact of the matter is, you've pretty much created a scenario where anytime I deal with a cop, anything from a speeding ticket to me being a suspect in a murder trial, is going to come down to, hey, you guys are harassing me again. Until those involved, including those in the hierarchy of that chain of command, such as Captain Rogers from the Beverly Police Department, Captain White, maybe even Colonel Smithers, are removed from their positions of authority. See, I said in another video that I would use the possibility of a threat of violence to the most it will give me. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If I wanted to use violence, you would know it because I would have used it already. I really don't want to use violence. To be quite honest with you, I'd much rather have a nice, respectable job. I would rather settle down with a nice girl, have kids, get married, be normal. But, well, I'm a dumbass. See, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to fight you. And I'll admit it, I'm strung out, I'm tired, I'm just done with this shit, I'm on the ropes. Problem is, you are too. Problem is, you're exposing yourselves. Showing everything, which is the whole reason that Hutchison, in all of his great wisdom to be involved in this trial, knowing the conflict of interest and so on and so forth, went and not only filed a motion to not recuse himself because of the conflict of interest, he actually filed the motion with a Chief Justice of the Appellate Court. Even though technically Judge Kirkpatrick, being the senior judge of Raleigh County, would hold the authority over it. He went over top of Kirkpatrick. I wonder why. I'm assuming Kirkpatrick would be honest, and it becomes very interesting in the fact that, Chief Justice Benjamin is unavailable to consider the motion for disqualification, and therefore it fell down to Acting Chief Justice Robin Jean Davis, who didn't argue with it. However, I'm curious as to what Hutchison's motion was, and more pointed to the fact if he admitted to being involved in other cases, or if he admitted into violating federal law by declaring the state police the military. Yeah. Oh, I know, you forgot to record a transcript. Doesn't surprise me. The problem with this is, if you're not recording transcripts, you're not keeping records of the case, you're destroying evidence. And, well, you do realize you're just digging your hole deeper. At any point in time, I've been playing the game by your rules, but at any point in time, I can change those rules. I can offer not to play the game. And then what happens? What will you do? See, you've already tried using snitches to set me up, and you've already tried to have snitches to threaten me, so that if I defend myself, the police are going to come in to arrest me, but I caught that ahead of time, and I recorded those facts and text messages and put that on the internet. Therefore, creating a situation where if I defend myself against one of these informants, I'm justified. And more importantly, if I defend myself against a police officer trying to arrest me falsely, knowing that there's evidence out there, because Sergeant Bailey even admitted that they're watching the videos, you come into this scenario that, yeah, I'm justified there too. So here's the thing about it. This is the question we all need to sit back and ask ourselves. How much is your career's worth? How much are your lives worth? Mine? Psh. Well, if I'm going to let someone destroy my life, it's going to be me. And, well, at this point, there's a way around this. There's a means to negotiate the end where we all get something we want, in a sense. But Christine Keller won't talk to me. And the less anyone wants to deal, because you're all more than happy to deal on plea bargains and everything else, but the less you want to deal in this one case, the more you go around trying to circumvent the evidence, trying to cover your tracks, the more evidence you give me proving corruption and criminality. Hypothetically speaking, I can go Dorner. Unlike Dorner, I have enough evidence on the internet and with other people that it'll hit mass media if I draw enough media attention and cause a big enough stir. Saying that's a threat. But please, by all means, I mean, there's people in WorldNet daily picking this whole thing up, trying to slant the public opinion of the matter, because I'm using the possibility of a potential threat to bring up the reality that you're creating an unstable environment which inspires violence. That's why police officers have been shot, like that sheriff in Kanawha County who was shot eating his lunch. That's why police cars in Raynell were set on fire, as well as police cars in Bluefield, and cops are being shot in Bluefield, as well as the cops being shot at, more accurately, in Coal City and out towards Wyoming County, and as well as down in Eccles and Whitesville and out that way. You're creating an environment where people feel the need to rely on violence to defend themselves. You're coming in like an occupying army. And I'm not saying I'm going to resort to violence. In fact, I don't even suggest, and I hope not to inspire anyone to use violence. I'm simply pointing out that you are creating an environment where you are making violence the coin of the realm. Now, I'm aware you don't really care. You think you're an army and you can do what you want. You have AR-15s and da-da-da-da-da, whatever. But, you know, your little Black Hawk helicopters and shit. But here's the problem. Alright? There's limitations to that technology. There's limitations to what you think you have and you don't realize. What are you going to do? Inspire someone to start using pipe bombs now? I mean, come on. Let's be honest. If you go doing that, well, by your own criminal actions, you're destabilizing the social fabric of the state of West Virginia. We have enough problems out here, but that's okay. You're the jackbooted little Nazi fucks. Maybe someone needs to step up and do something. The reality of the matter is, I am, and I'm doing it by giving you enough rope to hang yourself. I love watching you squirm. The best part of all this that you don't realize is there's still a few tricks up my sleeve. I'm only putting this out to you because I'm giving you a chance to deal. Knowing that I hold all the cards. Knowing that you have created an environment, giving me enough evidence to prove that if need be, the use of violence is an option on the table because, one, you're using violence. Two, you're manipulating the legal process to use violence illegally and in violation of the law which you're sworn to uphold. And three, because the potential for violence doesn't just affect me, it affects everyone else around me. See, if you protect your asses and put me in prison, given this false bullshit trial, you run into this little problem. You just show everyone else out there that the system doesn't work, that it's too corrupted by the good old boy network. And people are going to resort to violence, and a lot of it. And I know all about how Kristen Keller is scared shitless because people have threatened to kill her and her children. I know how a lot of these cops and judges are scared of it because of their own little corrupt behavior. The only thing I'm doing is just letting you show how corrupt you are. See, the only reason for nonviolent revolution, the only reason for nonviolent resistance, is that it becomes a justification for those who desire to use violent resistance. It's simply the way it is. Even Gandhi spoke of this when he said that it is better to be violent if violence is in your heart than to put on the cloak of nonviolence to excuse impotence. In other words, fight. If you don't have the heart to use violence, be nonviolent. If you don't have the moral fiber to be nonviolent, use violence, but fight. Hey, what do I know? See, I was always taught that leaders lead by example, so I'm setting the example. If others follow, fine. There are some who are, some who aren't. See how it all turns out.